I can tell you this much. I worked in laboratories during college for 3 years, and I had absolutely no intention of necessarily doing science or medicine. Okay, so maybe I was in denial. But then I had actually an amazing experience in one laboratory of actually the father of one of my oldest classmates from school. And he really kind of opened my eyes to what is possible in science. So far beyond what you learn in a textbook. Sort of really the new ways you could try to think about things. And then more importantly, that there might be some point in your life, or actually multiple times, where you're the only person in the world who knows the answer to a specific question. Just, I mean, that very possibility became real. And so actually it wasn't until December before my senior year that it really sort of cemented for me that this is what I was going to do. In science, it's really all kind of up to you, right? So nobody prevents you from being able to ask a question or to try to answer it. In medicine, there are lots of pluses, but there are also some downsides. A lot of people are telling you how to do things and what to do and when to do them. And science is not like that. So, we're here on a Saturday afternoon, and this is a time where this is very normal for scientists to be here. This is not abnormal at all. And I think that if you're passionate about something, you find yourself doing things a lot of other people would not be willing to do, but in many ways it's not really a sacrifice at all. So everybody has heard the word stem cell, and it's a very big buzzword in the media. And I think the most important thing that people have to realize is that everything started somewhere, and in biology we all started from some sort of stem cell. And what we've learned, at least in the blood system, is that these cells that are really able to give rise to all of the different components of the blood, whether or not it's your red cells, white cells, or your platelets or whatever, that they have some really amazing properties. And the most important property is that they can basically make more of themselves for the entire lifetime of an organism. And what we found out over the past few, maybe 15 years, is that cancers really, they use the same mechanism stem cells use to make more of themselves. This sort of way of thinking about normal tissue development in cancer really has, I wouldn't say that it's become the norm, but I think a lot of people really do think that this is really changing the way that we think about both normal and cancer processes. I get to say curing cancer. The reward, though, I think for people is sort of like I said. I think that your natural curiosity and sort of fulfilling your natural curiosity, I think, is even before the fact that you happen to be working on cancer, I think is probably the most critical thing. As somebody who specifically works on cancer, I think the beauty is that you are always looking towards trying to get to that ultimate goal of trying to really change people's lives. And if you can, you get hopefully cures, right? Now, this is not easy. For 30 years in many cancers, we've made no progress whatsoever, despite many, many people working on these problems. But I think it's your hope that through your hard work and hopefully your creative thinking, that you will be able to see that come to fruition. And I could tell you from talking to people who've been in that situation that I think that's the reward that remains elusive for most of us, but that we're always hoping for. I think that's something that drives everybody, though. For people who feel like they're being pressured by their parents, I would say take a step back if you're thinking about medicine and think very hard about why you might want to do it. And forget about the fact that your parents want you to do it. I was concerned about that as well. Am I just succumbing to parental pressure. There's no shame in becoming a physician. If you believe in what physicians do, you should do it. And whether or not you were influenced by your parents or not, I don't think that's anything to be ashamed of. If you think that you believe in the mission, you believe that you'll be satisfied as a person, intellectually, spiritually, whether or not your parents want you to do that is immaterial. When you look back on it, I think many, many, many years down the road, I think a lot of people will find that no matter what choice they make in their lives, their parents had a pretty big influence, even if it was a negative influence. So when I started at Yale in '88, I had grown up in Texas, and so didn't grow up around many other Korean Americans, and I sort of wanted to find out what Korean Americans were like. I heard stories about these people, but I really wanted to figure out what they might be like, and I also wanted to decide. I think that's basically the reason why I sought a company of other Korean Americans. What happened at that time was East Rock was holding an international conference at Yale on U.S.-Korea trade relations, and if you looked at the people that were attending, it was an amazing event. The trade ambassadors, the UN ambassadors, both from South Korea and the U.S. It was held at Yale University at the law school. The black tie dinner events. You had really powerful people who were making very important decisions about Korea there. And it was the first time that I had ever seen Koreans organize something that was relevant more than to just themselves. And even to this day, I think that Koreans still have a problem with these sorts of things. If you look at the Korean American community, I still feel like even when there are large events that are being held, it's not really being held for non-Koreans or Korean Americans. So what I liked about East Rock's perspective was that Korea is important. Korea is important for everybody, and it doesn't matter who your parents were or whether or not you were born there or whether or not your family came from there. Korea is important for many reasons because they're inherently there are lessons to be learned from Korea's culture and experiences. So when Korean Americans want to put out their best face and convince non-Korean Americans that we've mainstreamed, they find the people who are the most accomplished people, whether or not that they're president of an Ivy League university, or if they were a law school dean at an Ivy League school, or if they are the first appointed judge on the federal bench. And I think that's fine. I think those accomplishments are quite amazing. It's very interesting to me, though, that the people who sort of work at the front lines are rarely honored in such a way in the Korean American community. Somehow, within the community, we're supposed to be giving back, right? This whole theme of KASCON, somehow giving back. And I think that I think as a community, we need to recognize those people better. East Rock doesn't advocate a specific life pathway for Korean Americans. All it does is it asks them to have the highest ethical, moral standard when they do what they do, and to do it really well. And if we do that, then Korean Americans won't have to worry about how other non-Korean Americans or other non-Koreans see us. Okay? And I think in that way, that is one of the most important ways you give back to the Korean American community.